So when and why did you reach that discovery?
Well, I grew up as a kid in Southern California on the edge of the Mojave Desert. And when I was 11 years old, my mother married again, and we moved to New York City. It's a completely different environment. So in school, I found that I was telling stories about a place that none of my classmates had ever thought about, the Mojave Desert. And as a young person, 11, 12, 13 years old, I realized that the world was made up of fundamentally different places, and it excited my imagination. And I don't know if this is true or not, but when I was younger, when I was 7 or 8 years old, and my mother took my brother and me out into the Mojave Desert or out to Grand Canyon, and I came back to school, I loved to see what happened to people when you told them a story about a place they had never been. You could see a sense of fulfillment and enthusiasm for life rise up in people. I didn't know any of those words when I was 8 years old, but that's what it was. So somewhere in my mind, it got fixed that something that you could do with a story would elevate a person. So when I went away to university, I went to Notre Dame, which is at the time was an all-male, all-Catholic, all-middle-class, and very white school. By the time I was a senior, I had had enough life experience to think I got a very good education here, but something big was missing. What was missing was I had not gone to university with people who did not grow up in the same culture that I did. I did not go to school with people who spoke a language different from mine. I did not go to school with women. I did not go to school with people whose religious convictions were different from mine. Now, I should maybe add that it's not necessary for someone else to be wrong in order for me to be right. Those things at that time were the right things for me. But I developed a tremendous hunger to know what was different. I wanted to know what about these different things and where do they fit? And that's what mostly fueled my traveling when I was in university. And one trip led to another, and I discovered that I thrived in these circumstances that were different from the ones that I felt comfortable in. Probably necessary to add because, a lot of things that I ended up doing or have ended up doing in my life are, in a conventional way, they're remarkable. I have camped for weeks on end at 30 below zero on the polar plateau and hunted with Eskimos. All of these things that if they're set up in a certain way make me look like, what my wife and I, a person my wife and I used to call Johnny Arctic. It's like Johnny Football, but from another, from another space. What's important to realize about me is that I'm not interested in those kinds of achievements. What I'm interested in is the discovery that can come from putting yourself in these really different circumstances. And then importantly, coming home. I want to go to a place very different from the one I grew up in or the one I'm familiar with, say in Oregon. I want to bring a story home and give it to somebody. Because I think the more you know about the world that is different from yourself, the more intelligent your decision, especially today, about international matters. It's very sad to say that when I talk to other writers who, we all write for National Geographic, for example, so we're all able to sit around and have dinner together and talk about how completely different from the way most Americans imagine it the world is. that what is a normal family structure different in different places? What is an effective form of governance different in different places? What are the things really worth living for different in different cultures? So we're headed to a place of international agreements. I think you could argue that the idea of the nation state, particularly a nation state that knows more than everybody else, it's a bankrupt 19th century idea. You can't really travel in the world today with the idea that one country knows and the others are waiting to learn. But that's not reality. So somewhere in there, in my stumbling way as a writer, I wanted to be out there in these different places, traveling with Aboriginal people, for example, in Australia, not because I wanted to be somebody different from the one I am. I'm comfortable in my own home. But I wanted to say in some way, what do you know that maybe we don't, or we once did and threw away? How is life working for you? Real life, not a